Welcome to the Grey Lady of Glamis Castle, Scotland's most mysterious ghost. What if the walls of a castle could remember every secret, every betrayal, every tragedy? High above the rolling countryside of Angus, Scotland, stands Glamis Castle, a place of breathtaking beauty, home to kings and queens, a childhood home of Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother. A castle visited by thousands every single year. Yet, as darkness falls, many believe another resident still walks its ancient halls. A woman dressed entirely in grey, silent, graceful, forever searching. She has been seen gliding through corridors, standing motionless inside the chapel, and then disappearing through stone, solid walls. Visitors have reported an overwhelming feeling of sadness. Staff have described cold spots with no explanation at all. Some, they claim to hear footsteps, even when the castle stands empty. This is the story of the Grey Lady of Glamis Castle, one of Britain's oldest, most mysterious, and most enduring ghost legends. Before we begin, it's important to remember that Glamis Castle is a real place, steeped in over 600 years of history. Many of the events you're about to hear are supported by historical records. Others exist only as legend. And perhaps that uncertainty is exactly what makes this story so unsettling. Long before ghost hunters, television cameras, or even paranormal investigators, people whispered about strange occurrences within Glamis Castle. Built during the 14th century, the castle has witnessed countless generations. Royal visits, political intrigue, celebrations, executions, heartbreak, and unimaginable loss. Every stone seems to carry a memory. Every corridor seems to hide another secret. Many historians believe that places which have witnessed centuries of powerful human emotion naturally become surrounded by folklore. Whether these stories are true depends entirely upon what you believe. Of all the spirits said to haunt Glamis Castle, none is more famous than the Grey Lady. Witnesses almost always describe her in remarkably similar ways. She's described as a tall woman, dressed in flowing grey robes, her face pale, her expression sorrowful. She rarely acknowledges those who see her. Instead, she walks quietly, almost floating, as though searching for someone. Or perhaps something. Lost centuries ago, unlike many ghost stories filled with violence, the Grey Lady inspires something different. Not terror, but sadness. Many who claim to have seen her describe feeling overwhelming grief, as though her sorrow somehow reaches those around her. Some visitors have even reported tears forming without understanding why. Could emotion itself somehow linger long after death? Or is the power of suggestion enough to influence the mind? No one really knows. The most common place she is seen is within the castle chapel, a peaceful room filled with stained glass, ancient stone, and centuries of prayer. Staff members have occasionally reported glimpsing a woman sitting quietly in front of the pew, head bowed, hands folded, as though deep in prayer, and when approached, she disappears. Some believe she is simply reliving the final moments of her earthly life. Others, they believe she never truly left. Even today, visitors sometimes describe feeling an unusual presence inside the chapel, a sudden chill, the feeling of being watched, or the unmistakable sensation that someone is standing quietly beside them. Whether it's imagination or something beyond explanation, the stories continue. And they have continued for hundreds of years. But who was the Grey Lady? Why has this mysterious woman become forever linked with Glamis Castle? To answer that question, we must travel back more than 500 years to a woman whose life ended in unimaginable tragedy. A woman remembered in history as Lady Janet Douglas, and whose death may have given birth to one of Britain's oldest, greatest ghost legends. To understand why so many believe the Grey Lady still walks the halls of Glamis Castle, we must step back to 16th century Scotland, a time of fear, power, and deadly suspicion. The woman at the center of this mystery was Lady Janet Douglas, a noblewoman from one of Scotland's most powerful families. By all historical accounts, Janet was intelligent, well-respected, and fiercely loyal to those she loved. But her family carried a dangerous name. They were members of the powerful Douglas clan, a family that often found itself in conflict with the Scottish crown. Their influence made them admired by some and feared by others. For King James V, that fear would become an obsession. King James V believed the Douglas family posed a threat to his rule. Whether those fears were justified remains a matter of debate, but history tells us he became increasingly determined to weaken their power. Many members of the Douglas family fled Scotland. Others lost their lands. Some lost their lives. Lady Janet, she stayed. Perhaps she believed she had done nothing wrong. Perhaps she trusted that justice would prevail. Sadly, history would prove otherwise. In 1537, Lady Janet Douglas was arrested. The accusations were shocking. She was charged with witchcraft, treason, and plotting to poison the king. Today, many historians believe these accusations were politically motivated. There was never any convincing evidence that Janet practiced witchcraft, nor that she truly attempted to murder the king. Instead, it appears she became the victim of a ruthless campaign against her family. Yet, in 16th century Scotland, the word witch was enough to destroy a life. Fear often replaced evidence. Rumors became facts, and once suspicion took hold, escape became almost impossible. Historical records suggest Janet endured harsh questioning whilst imprisoned. Some historians believe torture may even have been used to force confessions. Sadly, this was not uncommon during that period. The legal system was very different from what we know today. Accusations alone could seal someone's fate. Imagine sitting alone in a cold, stone cell, knowing your innocence, yet understanding that no one intended to listen. Imagine hearing footsteps approach, wondering if they brought hope or another interrogation. Janet never admitted to the crimes she was accused of. She maintained her innocence until the very end. On the 17th of July, 1537, Lady Janet Douglas was sentenced to death. She was burned at the stake on Edinburgh Castle Hill, one of the most brutal methods of execution imaginable. Eyewitness accounts from the time described large crowds gathering to witness the execution. For many, it was another public spectacle. For others, it was the tragic death of an innocent woman. Even after her death, the king's anger did not end. Janet's young son was imprisoned. Her family lands were confiscated. Their name was almost erased from Scottish society. One execution had become the destruction of an entire family. Over the centuries, people began to ask a haunting question. Could such injustices leave something behind? Cold grief, fear, betrayal. Could any of it become forever woven into the walls of Glamis Castle? Many believe the answer is yes. They say Janet returned, not seeking revenge, but searching for peace that was denied to her in life. They believe she became the Grey Lady, the silent figure who still walks the castle chapel, head bowed, hands folded, forever praying, forever waiting. Some paranormal investigators suggest that if spirits exist, places connected to profound emotional trauma may somehow preserve echoes of the past. Others argue those stories just grow stronger with every generation, until legend becomes inseparable from history. And perhaps that is exactly what happened at Glamis Castle. To this day, visitors continue to report seeing a grey figure in the chapel. Some feel an overwhelming sadness. Others, they notice sudden drops in temperature. A few claim to have captured unexplained shapes in photographs. Whether these experiences are supernatural or simply the power of expectation, no one can say for certain. But one thing remains true. The story of Lady Janet Douglas has never been forgotten. And neither, it seems, has she. Yet, the Grey Lady is one of Glamis Castle's many dark mysteries, because hidden behind its magnificent walls lies another legend, one so disturbing that generations have whispered about it in secret. A hidden room, a terrible family curse, and a prisoner said to have lived far beyond the limits of any normal human life. As the years passed, the story of Lady Janet Douglas became forever entwined with Glamis Castle. But she was not the only mystery whispered about behind its ancient walls. In fact, many believe Glamis Castle hides a secret far darker than any ghost. A secret room, a terrible family curse, and a prisoner who was never meant to be seen. Whether these stories are true, no one can say for certain, yet they have endured for centuries. Perhaps the most famous legend surrounding Glamis Castle is known as the Monster of Glamis. According to the tale, many generations ago, a child was born into a noble family who owned the castle. But this child was said to have been severely disfigured. Some stories describe him as terrifying to look upon. Others claim he suffered from a rare medical condition that people of the time simply just could not understand. In an age filled with superstition, differences were often feared. Rather than allowing the child to live openly, legend claims he was hidden away inside a secret chamber deep within the castle. A room with no ordinary entrance. A room known only to a handful of family members. There, he supposedly spent his entire life, never allowed to leave, never even seen by the outside world. Now, no historical evidence has ever confirmed the story. Most historians believe it is simply a legend. Yet, the tale refuses to disappear. Visitors have long wondered, could such a room really exist? The castle itself certainly seems capable of hiding secrets. Its twisting corridors, unexpected staircases, hidden passages, and ancient stone walls have fueled imaginations for generations. Even today, some guides smile knowingly when asked about secret rooms. Others simply change the subject. One of the strangest stories connected with the legend comes from Victorian times. According to local tradition, several guests staying at Glamis Castle became curious after hearing whispers about hidden rooms. Determined to discover the truth, they supposedly devised an unusual experiment. They opened every visible window in the castle and hung a white sheet from each one. Then they stepped outside. Slowly, they counted one window after another until something seemed wrong. They discovered windows that should have belonged to rooms. They discovered that these rooms appeared to have no corresponding space inside the castle. So, where are those rooms? What lay behind those walls? No one could explain it. Whether this event truly happened, or this has simply become another part of the legend, no one knows. But the story continues to fascinate visitors to this very day. Some paranormal investigators believe hidden spaces can create an unsettling atmosphere. Unexplained drafts, strange echoes, unexpected sounds, all easily mistaken for something supernatural. While others believe if a tragic life really unfolded within those walls, its emotional imprint may still remain. Whatever the truth, many visitors describe an uneasy feeling in certain parts of Glamis Castle. A sensation that someone is watching, footsteps echoing behind them, only to find empty corridors, doors that seem to close by themselves, soft knocking sounds with no obvious source. Castle staff have also shared unusual experiences over the years. Some have reported hearing voices when no one else is nearby. Others describe sudden cold patches that seem to appear without warning. There are stories of lights behaving strangely, objects being found where no one remembers leaving them, and fleeting shadows seen from the corner of the eye. Most of these experiences have perfectly ordinary explanations. Old castles settle, ancient woods creak, stone walls carry sound in unusual ways. The human mind is remarkably good at finding patterns in darkness, and yet, even the most skeptical visitors sometimes leave Glamis Castle with unanswered questions. Whether it is history, architecture, or perhaps something beyond explanation, there is little doubt that Glamis Castle leaves a lasting impression. Its beauty is undeniable, but beneath that beauty lies layer upon layer of mystery. And perhaps that is why the Grey Lady is said to remain, not alone, but surrounded by centuries of whispered secrets. As night falls, the castle grows quiet. The last visitors depart. The heavy wooden doors close. Only the wind moves across the ancient grounds. And somewhere, according to those who believe, a woman dressed in grey once again walks silently towards the chapel. Still searching, still praying, still waiting. But before you decide whether the Grey Lady is merely legend, or perhaps something far more mysterious, there are the eyewitness accounts, stories told by visitors, castle employees, and of course paranormal investigators, many of whom insist they experienced something they simply cannot explain. For centuries now, the Grey Lady has remained one of Britain's most enduring ghost stories. But what keeps this legend alive is not simply history, it's the people who believe they have seen her. Generation after generation, visitors, guides, and members of staff have described experiences they struggle to explain. Not everyone arrives believing in ghosts. Many leave with more questions than answers. One of the most frequently reported sightings takes place inside the castle chapel. Visitors have spoken of seeing a woman sitting quietly in one of the front pews, her head bowed, her hands resting peacefully in her lap. She appears completely real, silent, motionless, lost in prayer. Yet when someone turns away, even for the briefest moment, she is gone. No footsteps, no opening door, no sound at all. Only an empty seat where moments before someone appeared to be sitting. Some believe this is Lady Janet Douglas, forever returning to a place of peace she never found in life. Others describe something different, a glimpse of movement, a figure dressed in flowing grey crossing a distant corridor. She never seems hurried though. She never accompanies anyone. She simply walks, calmly, peacefully, as though following a path only she remembers. By the time witnesses reach the place where they saw her, the corridor was empty. Many report feeling an unexpected chill. Others say the atmosphere suddenly becomes heavy, almost impossible to describe. Castle guides have occasionally shared their own stories. Although Glamis Castle is first and foremost an historical home, staff quietly admit there are places they dislike entering alone after dark, particularly during the winter months when the castle becomes quieter and shadows seem to linger just a little longer. There are stories of footsteps echoing across stone floors, only to discover nobody else is nearby. Doors gently closing without explanation. Unmistakable feeling that someone has just walked past you, even though the corridor remains empty. One guide described just that. He was locking up for the evening. Every visitor had gone. Every room had been checked. The castle was silent. As they passed the chapel, they noticed someone sitting inside. Thinking a guest had accidentally remained behind, they stepped inside to help. The chapel was empty. There was nowhere for anyone to hide. Only stillness and silence. Photographs taken inside the castle have occasionally fueled the mystery. Some visitors claim to have captured unexplained figures standing in windows. Others report strange shadows appearing when nobody has been standing. Experts have often pointed to reflections, lighting, or the way old buildings can create unusual photographic effects. Yet, for those who took the photographs, the images remain deeply unsettling, especially when they remember what they thought they saw with their own eyes. Paranormal investigators have also visited Glamis Castle over the years, using thermal scanners, sensitive microphones, electromagnetic field detectors, and other equipment designed to detect unusual activity. Some teams have reported unexplained cold spots. Others captured sounds they could not immediately identify. Soft knocks, faint whispers, distant footsteps. Of course, none of this proves the existence of ghosts. Old castles are full of natural sounds. Stone expands and contracts. Wood settles. Wind finds its way through ancient walls. Our minds are also remarkably good at searching for meaning, especially in unfamiliar places. Yet, not every experience is so easily explained. Perhaps the most unsettling reports come from people who knew nothing of the Grey Lady before arrival. Visitors who later described seeing a woman dressed entirely in grey, only to discover afterwards that generations of people had reported exactly the same figure. Coincidence? Maybe. Suggestion? Or something far older. Still walking those ancient halls. No one truly knows. As darkness settles over Glamis Castle, the crowds disappear. The gift shop closes. The final footsteps fade into the night. The castle grows quiet once more. The only sounds are the whisper of the wind, the ticking of old clocks, and the gentle creak of timber that has stood for centuries. If the stories are true, this is when she appears, moving silently through empty corridors, pausing in the chapel, forever dressed in grey, forever carrying a sorrow that history has never forgotten. But perhaps the greatest mystery isn't what ghosts exist. Perhaps the greatest mystery is why certain stories refuse to die, why generation after generation people continue to tell exactly the same tale, and why, even today, the Grey Lady remains one of Scotland's most famous and haunted legends. In our final chapter, we're going to explore what historians believe, what skeptics argue, and whether Glamis Castle deserves a reputation as one of Britain's most haunted places. Before asking the question that you can answer, is the Grey Lady merely a legend, or is she still watching from the shadows? For more than 500 years, the story of the Grey Lady has remained part of Glamis Castle, not because anyone has proved that she exists, but because no one has ever truly explained why so many people continue to tell the same story. History gives us facts. Lady Janet Douglas lived. She was accused of crimes that many historians now believe were politically motivated. She was convicted. She was executed in 1537. These are facts that are beyond dispute. Everything that followed belongs to the realm of mystery. Did grief, injustice, and unimaginable suffering somehow leave a mark on Glamis Castle? All have centuries of whispered stories simply encouraged each new generation to see what they want to see what they expect to see. Perhaps the answer lies somewhere between the two. One of the most remarkable things about old castles is the way they affect us. The thick stone walls, the narrow staircases, the flickering lights, the silence that seems almost alive. Places like Glamis Castle invite the imagination to wander. Every shadow becomes a question. Every distant sound becomes a possibility. Even those who consider themselves skeptics often admit that ancient places pose a feeling unlike anywhere else. Not because they believe in ghosts, no, but because history itself can feel overwhelming. Standing inside rooms where people laughed, loved, feared, and died centuries ago can leave anyone feeling connected to the past. Perhaps that alone is enough to explain the Grey Lady. Or perhaps it isn't. Even today, visitors continue to arrive from around the world. Some come because of the castle's royal history. Others come because of its beautiful architecture. And many come hoping to experience something they cannot explain. Most leave having enjoyed nothing more than mysteries and a fascinating tour. Others leave quieter, wondering about a shadow they cannot account for, a sudden chill, a feeling that someone stood beside them, or the brief glimpse of a woman in grey who vanished before they could even look again. Stories like these rarely make headlines. They are shared quietly between friends, family members, tour guides, visitors, and perhaps that is why they continue to survive. Not because they demand belief, but because they invite curiosity. There is something strangely comforting about ghost stories like this. Unlike monsters that lurk in the darkness, the Grey Lady is remembered with sympathy. She is not described as violent. She does not chase those who enter the castle. She does not seek revenge. She simply walks, quietly, patiently, as though time itself has forgotten to let her leave. If she does truly exist, perhaps she is not trapped by the castle. Perhaps she remains because it was a lost place that truly felt like home. As the evening grows darker, imagine Glamis Castle standing alone beneath the Scottish sky, its ancient towers silhouetted against drifting clouds. A single light glowing softly through one chapel window. The grounds are silent. The wind moves quietly through the trees. The last visitor has long since departed. Inside, only the echoes of history remain. Or perhaps something else. Perhaps a woman dressed in flowing grey quietly rises from the chapel. She walks slowly through the corridors she has known for centuries. Her footsteps make no sound. Her expression remains peaceful, yet filled with sadness. She pauses beside a window, looking out across the moonlit grounds, searching for something or someone lost long ago. Then, as quickly as she has appeared, she fades once more into the shadows, leaving behind only silence. So, was the Grey Lady ever truly there? History cannot answer, science cannot answer, and perhaps that is exactly why her story continues to endure. Because some mysteries are never meant to be solved. They are meant to be remembered, passed from one generation to the next, growing with every whispered retelling, keeping the past alive, long after those who have lived it are gone. So, if you ever find yourself walking through the halls of Glamis Castle, and you notice a woman dressed in grey, sitting silently inside the chapel, or appearing down an empty corridor, Don't be too quick to dismiss what you've seen. It may have been a trick of the light, a wandering shadow, or simply an old story playing upon your imagination. But then again, perhaps the Grey Lady is still there, watching, waiting, and reminding us that some stories never truly end. Thank you for joining me on another journey into the shadows. If you enjoyed tonight's story, please consider liking the video and subscribing to Whispered Nightmares for more tales of haunted history, forgotten legends, and mysteries that continue to echo throughout time. Until next time, sleep well and remember, sometimes the most haunted stories are the ones that just might be true.